I wish I knew about this when I was a lot younger. So
Any Queen of Spades out there?
no, so they actually brand themselves. They have the Queen of Spades tattoo. So usually if you
Holy
see
shit.
that, it's literally that's exactly what it means. If you ever see it, that's exactly what it means.
That's some weird subculture I just learned about today.
Let's get into the podcast.
Oh, boy, we've been there for 16 minutes.
Let's
So I mean, we could just keep going, and
Yeah.
like cut that out, or put it in like a reserved.
we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll just keep going.
For everyone listening at home, we weren't about to film this. This is going to be our first official episode of the podcast, name pending. But we were having some good conversations. We said, why not record it? And so now we're going to continue those conversations for y'all's pleasure. Quick intro. My name is Jarvis,
I'm Blake.
I'm Greg.
and we're about to have some really weird conversations.
This shit about to be all over the place.
Yeah, I know. Like before we started talking, there was no like we were like the Library of Alexandria and like language and stuff.
Zero clear direction. We're just going to let this one flow because I feel like we're the most interesting when we're not forced to talk about something
absolutely.
specific.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's just start talking about whatever we want to talk about. Let the mic pick it up, and hopefully it's not,
Garbage.
well, incriminating.
And
Right?
I think we do a good job. We have enough
I think it'll be all right.
good head on our shoulders.
We can continue what we're talking about outside, though.
Yeah, I think we were
Language. Yeah, we were talking about the complexities of language and how English sort of just does its own thing.
Well, it's weird because it's not like they do it. English doesn't like do its own thing. It does all these other languages things.
Because it's so derived from just different cultures and migration of immigrants from across the world.
Yeah.
That it's funny because like when I was learning Portuguese and like the hardest part like when in class was them being like, oh, use this word. And then when I realized like all three of my teachers were from different regions, they all use different verbiage. And then it was funny because my teacher turns around, she was like, the English language is so hard. She's like, you guys have so many different accents. And I'm like, we don't have accents. But when you really think about it, it's like, all right, we really do. Like people from up north, south, east, west, everyone have these
Even different
versions.
parts of the north. Like a New York accent is going to be different, like a Minnesota versus like fucking like Portland.
Yeah, oh yeah. And so she was just getting at that, and I was like, okay, that does make sense. Like, we do use particular words for our region, for our culture, so on and so forth. And it's crazy because it came around the same time of the movie Arrival. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
It was like, so I was learning language. I was learning
I never
Portuguese.
saw that one.
So I was learning Portuguese as the movie. So like, kind of a little synopsis of the movie is basically aliens arrive on Earth and they're trying to decipher like almost like pictographs, but it's in like a seer.
Yeah.
And like different like
Their language is it's literally circular.
Yeah.
And so they get Amy Adams as the like top linguist or whatever to translate and like communicate with the aliens.
And so like different spikes in the circle could mean different things. And it was crazy being.
It reminds me of like the Chinese alphabet and stuff, and how it's like one
Yeah.
little character can mean different things based on the like lines and stuff on there.
So when we were in there, so like looking at that movie while being brand new to learning a language, I'm like, I understood specifically like their frustration of like deciphering an unknown. And it was just crazy because it's like, okay, it's like, even though it's something in the realm that we all know, we all speak, he was like, even the same verbiage we use, it's like, it's encoded, like we're talking about like the Tower of Babel, just to be difficult in its own right.
Yeah, I think that even if you can learn someone else's language, you don't fully understand them because of the same thing with just like someone from the South Texas region compared to someone in like New York City trying to like have a regular conversation about their like daily things. They don't live the same, so they don't even have the same type of terms because your words a lot of times will derive from like your day-to-day tasks.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that too. Like if you took someone from like Texas and New York and just tried to have them talk, like they'd be confused and asking questions like, well,
I think the same thing happens when you're so like say I wanted to learn Russian, I can learn the words, meanings, and the phrases and stuff, but like I'm not gonna get the
actual everyday discussion part of it.
Right.
Like so when I was learning German, I was learning like a very proper grammatical whatever, and then I would try to talk to this dude that I work with who spent like the first half of his life in Germany and like got his U.S. citizenship like when he was like 25, and it was crazy, like the disconnect. Like I'm speaking this proper, and he's like,
why are you talking like that?
Yeah, it's like, you know, fucking, and there's like even just saying I, you know, if you go like north, it's ick. If you go south, it's ish. And he's like, yeah, we call like the northerners all icky ickies because they use the proper and the ick and stuff. I'm like, well, shit, man, I want to be speaking that gangster stuff. So like, you know?
I think that's why they say the best time to learn a language is like toddler age. I think it's because you haven't yet cemented your own culture, so you can still easily learn other cultures while so like as an adult you've got your own ideas of how every word and phrase and tone works. So like learning a different language with a different idea of how you phrase things and speak is going to be a lot more complicated. You can get the words down and the grammar down, but actually like understanding the language as like a natural thing is going to be way more difficult.
So on the toddler thing, and this is something that I read recently, and I can't remember the name of the article, so I can't like reference it or anything, and I didn't that fucking background noise though. It's something we were complaining about because we've tried recording before, but anyway, and I like babies are born. And I don't know when it like kicks in, if it kicks in at birth or around toddler age or however it works, but like, you know, there's the part of our brain that processes language and communication.
From 0 to 6 months.
Yeah, those synapses are already firing, like when they're that young. Like they come out ready to accept a language and a communication.
So babies are hypersensitive at that point. It's like everything is new to them. So that's why they're saying they're constantly touching, putting things in their mouth. Like they want to know everything. So they're super hypersensitive, and they're saying that realm. So like that between like being like in the womb to being like 5 years old is like the most vital time of their life. Yeah, you can cement like good habits into them. Being able, like, have you ever seen the what's a TV series? Not the TV show, that the commercials where My Baby Can Read.
Yeah.
So like that was a big thing, teaching them how to like teaching them read at like 6 months, or you can be teaching babies sign language, and like basically at 1 year old, like they can't even speak yet, but they can sign language everything, and it proves it's like, okay, they can keep a cohesive sentence with you. Like maybe it's very basic.
Yeah.
He's like, but they can like specifically ask you for what they want in sign language. So it's like taking that opportunity to give them like kids a good foundation right off the bat is so vital. Like, so like even with coming back to like the whole language thing, like if I really want to set my child up right, you're like, I will teach you a secondary language right off the rip.
That's where I was just about to go too, is like, you know, they're so susceptible at that time. Like, and that's probably why it's most of the people who are fluent in multiple languages, they started learning them at a young age. Like I had this teacher who had a kid when I was in grade school, and she was my teacher then, and by like, you know, followed her on Facebook or whatever. And like seeing that kid grow up through her stories on Facebook, and she's talking about how this kid's like 5-6 years old and is already trilingual and speaking, you know, Portuguese and French and all this stuff. Like,
and they don't have to be taught like a grammatical error, like grammatics of it all, or teach verbiage. They just hear it. Yeah, they're like, oh, they hear it on a regular basis, so it's just they're a sponge to it. They're like, okay. And
it's why as English speakers, you know, we completely understand, you know, verbal communication, but the second we take like an English class and there's like goes down to like grammar and stuff, most people are kind of lost. We're like, hey, I don't really know what an adjective is.
Yeah, it's weird because like it's like I'm a good writer too. Like that's something I always did really well at in like, you know, school and shit. But I could not fucking tell you what an adverb is or a pronoun or any of that stuff.
Like say someone who doesn't speak English is learning English, they'd actually understand that way better than we do, because that's how they're like being taught.
Yeah,
it's like the rules of the language, and they can like learn it religiously, and so they understand like our actual grammar rules better than we do. Yet we'll still have a harder time communicating with us because they don't get like the actual like, I guess, stuff that's dictated from culture as much.
And I think that's like what it's made it easier for me to translate like English sentences into German. I'm sure like you with Portuguese as well. It's like understanding the layout of the sentence, and like it's probably the same in German. Like the verb goes at the end, so everything is like I don't know if prepositions the right word, but like preposing stuff.
Someone had to explain that to me, so it was very difficult because like going even back to what you were saying before, it's like since I think in English, I want to speak Portuguese in English. And it doesn't work like that.
The grammar.
So in my brain, I'm like, well, why? Like, it makes sense like this. Why don't you say it like this? You're like, we don't say it like that. And that's
Yeah.
just simply the answer. Like,
Yeah.
we just don't say it like that.
Even simple shit like if I were to say like, you know, I want to park my car here, in German it would be like, I want my car here to park.
Yeah.
It's even the same way with nonverbal communication. Like, people who speak different languages have different types of nonverbal communication. Like, whenever we went to Afghanistan, they were like trying to teach us like, hey, you can't just like spit on the ground like you do in America. Like, the people there are gonna think you're like disrespecting their families, like flipping them off. And
Yeah.
it's just like people view different like regular actions differently.
Even how like you know, us holding our hand up as like a stopping motion, like, hey, stop, here's my hand. And other I think I want to say like Iraq, but I could be wrong. Like, putting your hand up like that means come forward. And that's where like a lot of confusion, especially between like soldiers and locals. And
That's
shit.
like the same thing with some African cultures. Like, giving the bird forward is like, hello. It's like, oh, it's more of a greeting, like, than how we would do, like, oh, why are you flipping me off?
Yeah.
Like, we take it more derogatory than anything.
I taught them this means peace among worlds. Isn't that hilarious?
That's why I get on. That's why I get on the deployment, and you would hate those motherfuckers so. Fuck Raheem. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you, Raheem.
Those little kids, fuck you, America! Like, you motherfucker! Pulling out the paintball gun.
He was like, throw another goddamn rock at me.
Those kids could beam that shit.
Oh,
too,
man.
Think
It
so.
was the worst part is, I remember when pulling Tower Guard, and you probably had this experience too, and you piss in bottles all the time. And you throw them over the edge, but they see you throwing bottles over the edge because sometimes you would throw
Throw
water
water,
bottles,
yeah.
and you're just like, no,
Don't
Trying to
drink that.
Don't drink that one.
Except for that one kid who's always like throwing rocks at you. You're like, hey, maybe it is water. Let you figure that one out.
What was his name? It wasn't Raheem. What was his fucking name?
Razmama?
Razmama. Fucking
shit.
Razmama.
I don't think we ever had any interactions with him, but we heard so many stories.
He was like, it's fucking Razmama over there. Like, motherfucker.
Was it you in the tower with me when that kid was playing that like instrument? It was like a high-pitched instrument.
Oh, yeah, no, it was. I think he probably had a cell phone or some shit, or like some sort of like recorder or whatever, and he would just play this like. It almost sounded like a bird, and we were getting pissed off because we thought there was a bird on top of the tower, but it was this fucking kid out in like the wood line in Afghanistan.
That's
fucking
when
blew my mind, and he was
we
just-
started getting mad at him for like messing with us for hours on end because we're stuck in this metal box
just
for 6
banging
hours.
this fucking high pitched
And so we shoot some paintball guns at him just to get him to go away. And I'm pretty sure he called the Afghan police on us because that's when the Afghan police truck rolled up with the with the guy in the back waving the M16.
Ford Ranger and a guy with the M16 in the back. That was sketchy.
Yeah, we're just pulling security. This guy rolls up. Afghan police truck rolls up right to the tower. Guy in the back's waving an M16, screaming in Arabic at us. Our first inclination is to put a HE round in a 320 and blow the truck up. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to mess around.
What I love is how Jarvis handled this. Is this guy's yelling at us, and Jarvis like opens the window a little bit. He goes, "That tower down there." And fucking the dude just takes off.
The sketchiest moment I remember was it MS? It wasn't Mrs. Thompson because that was for Raw. It was like Sultan or something like that. It was some.
Maymana or something.
No, this is after I got kicked out of third platoon and moved to second platoon. And
I forget. Why'd you get kicked out?
because I called them out on their bullshit. I called all of them. All right, we'll get back to the story. So I called them out on their bullshit. I told that I pretty much was telling my squad leader at the time, like, hey, the PL have done less than me, like, in my, like, he wasn't even born. He wasn't even in the military before I even started the military. Like, so I was calling with bullshit and everything, and basically they didn't like that. I was saying, like, you guys don't know your soldiers, you don't know what's going on, so on and so forth. And I got relieved of my position, basically, and they booted me out the platoon. Once I got back to CAF, first on was just like, hey, we're going to keep you in S shop. You're going to be working under Jarvis. And I was like, all right, cool, bet. So I was working under Jarvis, and then like 2 days later, Sergeant Lenny comes in there. He was like, hey, you want to come to my platoon? And I was like, yeah.
He's a badass dude.
Yeah. And me and him talked. We both had Q course experience. Like,
Yeah, that's actually where I met him.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't remember me, but when,
he probably will.
I don't know, because I've seen him around battalion a lot. But when I was in OT, fucking, he was one of the guys that was in OT with me.
Yeah.
And, like, we went on, like, that Chaplain's Rock around Raven
Okay.
Rock and stuff. So,
Me and him, so he was just like, he's like, I know what you've done. He was like, because I was on his EIB lane too. He's like, I've talked to you, you're a solid dude. He's like, I have no beef with you. He's like, I know what you've done. He's like, you've done a lot. He's like, I'll take you. He's like, they don't want you, we'll take you. Fast forward, say like a month and a half forward. The current platoon sergeant, Candler, was acting up.
we'll block that out.
Acted up, and they literally, all the Joes started calling him out on their shit. Calling him out on all this shit. Like, not him specifically, but like all the squad leaders.
It was like leadership in general.
Yeah. And to the point, it got to the point that they called the first sergeant. The commander and first sergeant had to fly out to Dalton.
I remember
them.
someone from, because Chandler was what, makeshift platoon sergeant, right?
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was Bartel. He was telling me that y'all are doing an exfil, and they
Bartel got left on the fucking air.
Left him.
Yeah, and then they kicked him out because of it.
Left him and the FO. I forget his name.
Yeah.
Left them both on the bird, and he was just like. And then they had the audacity to tell him, he was like, oh, it was the Air Force's fault. Like, your job is to count in soldiers.
That's
like,
literally
that's the platoon sergeant's job.
As a fucking NCO, he's in charge of accountability.
No, the platoon sergeant. That's in his like duties.
Men, weapons, equipment.
Yes, that is in his duties. And they're just like, nah, man, like that was their fault. So all that happens. He gets
sorry we
booted.
left you in a war zone by yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
Anyway, fuck you. Go hang
But,
out
like,
with CI, pussy.
Yeah, it's your fault though.
So they booted him too. He ended up having a clutch
great time.
Great deployment
Oh
after
my
that.
god! Hearing his story, he's like, "Yeah, I'm in fucking civilians. I have a beard
Working
now."
with soft the whole entire time.
Yeah.
So leadership, first sergeant CEO come out there, have to relieve him of command, like relieve him of his position, move him to second platoon with me. I was like, bro, like I'd have no beef with him though. And I'm just like, so more shit came out about them to the point that the first sergeant and the CEO was just like, oh, so Parks wasn't fucked up. Like, nah, man, like they're fucked up. Like everything he was saying to you was true because they were literally repeating the same shit I was saying to them.
One
in
of the
office.
biggest problems, I think, is that the people like first sergeant commander and stuff, they get all their information from one
Leadership.
source. And so they can say whatever they want, and that's their view on you.
Yeah.
They don't go and like make sure that's the right information.
And it's always like, "Oh, well, they have more ranks, so they're going to be saying
They're going to
right
tell me
thing."
the truth.
Yeah.
But when you got there's only 22 people on deployment in the platoon, so when you got like 16 Joes saying like this is what's going on, like, all right, can't deny if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it must be a fucking duck.
Yeah.
So yeah, they got booted. I forget where we were going from this anyway. I segued too far.
We had some issues with like and there's just always a disconnect between like leadership and the fucking Joes. Like when we were in JBAD and like getting
You were there
we were
forever.
doing okay in JPAD. Blake here and Colin were in my team, and they transferred me from another company, from ACO, right before the deployment to help teach DECO, which at the time was not a line company. They changed
we're a
it for
truck
the
company.
deployment.
We're heavy
So
weapons.
they're like, you're going to go there sort of as like a subject matter expert, you know, trying to sweet talk they're like kicking me out and trying to make it sound better than it actually was. But they're like, you're going to go help DECO do their job, teach them how to be a line company or a line platoon. Wherever you go, you're going to help the people around you understand the job. And so the first 3 months of deployment, because they weren't a line company, everybody's just trying to like learn how to do it. And I think I taught 0 classes because I attempted to, but because I wasn't like a part of the clique, they're like, no, we're not going to listen to you. So I just all right, whatever.
You like treated your men right, and they were like, "Oh, what the fuck is this guy
the
doing?"
amount of times they just took me aside and like, hey, we don't like how you're leading. And I'm like, oh yeah, well that's because I've got a different leadership style than you. But if my guys come out on top above the rest of the platoon, maybe it's because it's a good way.
we were doing. Like we were doing stress shoots and like perform like things where they were evaluating our performance and stuff. And Jarvis and I's team, which was just we were doing 3-man teams, we were outperforming everyone. We were always coming out.
They did
on
a
top.
competition at the end of the 3 months in JBAD.
Yeah, with the gauntlet.
The 18 Bravos there like put it together. They're like, yeah, this is the gauntlet. It's just an in-depth
Probably like a
stress shoot.
little baby version of what they do.
And it was a culminating event for all the training that they did. And basically, they left it up to the team most of the time. So whatever team came on top probably had the best instructions by the team leader.
And it wasn't like a team shoot; it was individual. Each person went
Right.
and did their own thing.
And so we do this competition.
So just so like Greg understands what the competition was. So it was basically like, run to the end of the fucking fob and back, which wasn't super far. It was probably like 800 meters. And it's all in kit. So you come back, you do 10 burpees, X amount of flutter kicks, and like you get up behind a barrier, you shoot, and then move, and you're just moving
It's
and shooting
like
barriers.
practice reloads. There's like 4 targets. There's
reloads,
multiple
targets.
like positions, and they're grading everything. They're grading like your
foot being in the right position, how you handle reloads. There's
whether or not you can store your empty mag on your kit or just drop it.
There's a couple like moving and shooting, and then at the end of it,
whether you're in the A zone or not.
Yeah.
At the end, you run back around, you go back to the same barrier, you shoot a couple rounds offhand with your non-firing hand, and then you go and disassemble, reassemble your M4.
And then, so for the past 3 months, the platoon leadership was constantly telling me that they're not going to listen to me when it comes to like marksmanship training. They're going to go exactly by the book. They're like, it has to be right. It's a book. If I'm reading it, it has to be right. You can't know more than this book, because that just doesn't make sense to us.
I get you were a sniper, but this book knows how to shoot.
And I'm like, listen, the one thing I've done in this job is learn how to shoot very well. Like, give me this one thing. I never want to participate. When I try, I get shit on.
Like, Jarvis, Cart, why don't you participate more? And you're like, okay, well, I'd like to do this. What? No, go away.
That's like me and
Not
comms.
when we're reading.
That's like me and comms. They already know, like, don't give anybody no comms class unless I'm giving it.
We did this competition. The end, this was gonna see who did what. I get first place. Blake gets second place. My other team member gets third place.
I think I got third.
So Colin got second, you got third.
Yeah.
Then it was the special forces guys.
Yeah.
And then it was the rest of the platoon.
So what's crazy too about you, and just to show how like fast they like Colin and Jarvis went through it, you would get time docked off based on how many you missed, and they missed shots. I didn't miss any, and I still came in third. So like they missed shots, so like their time was actually much faster.
Okay. Oh shit.
Yeah.
And then so I got an award, Army Achievement Medal. Woo! Basically a high five, crisp high five is what it felt like.
So there were other instances where like, I think we did one shoot and someone else's team came on top, and they were like talking to their team. They were like, "God, you did such a good job. You're training."
So they were praising them, but not y'all.
And then Jarvis, his team comes on top, and they're like, "Oh, cool. You want to go to Ranger School?"
I said no. They're like, "Oh, okay, we're done talking to you."
That was an interesting fucking conversation to watch too, because they were like, "So you want to go to Ranger School when you get back from deployment?" And Jarvis is like, "Well, my newborn son is going to be there. I'd like to spend more time with him. I've been away for 9 months."
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, they're like, "It's only 2 more months."
Only 2. That's almost a year, bro. That goes from 9 to 11.
Yeah.
Like, you know that's pretty much a year in my book.
They're like, "Yeah, well, here's an AAM."
Yeah,
That's
It was
fun
good,
anyway.
It was, and then like
It was a good experience.
again back on the disconnect thing, which I guess where this started. We're at JBAD and we're pulling like tower guard pretty frequently. We're on like a 4 on 8 off, which doesn't sound too bad at first, but then they're piling on like 2 or 3 hour ranges on top. So you're getting, and then you have to.
Then it changed to 6 hours tower guard,
12 off.
12 off, and in that 12 off, we had like 2-3 hours of range time.
Yeah, so in the beginning we're getting like 4 hours of sleep between eating and
it's
then
because they were so paranoid because nobody had any combat experience. So instead of like going methodically, they're just like, we need to train nonstop because we're so scared that we're gonna mess up that we just aren't gonna take a break.
And then we're doing stress shoots at 1400 at 2:00 in the afternoon in Afghanistan in August, and they're like, you gotta acclimate to the heat.
The craziest thing to me was the SF guys were like, hey, we got some great courses for you. We're all like, hey, we actually like
they were
this.
teaching us
and our
some
platoon
dope
leadership
shit.
were like, no, don't listen to them. Listen to us. Don't listen to the trained professionals. Listen to the guys who sort of just made it because we hung out for a while.
Yeah, no, we fucking...
And they're like, if it were up to us, we'd be doing dry fires. We wouldn't even be shooting live rounds while we're in Afghanistan.
Yeah,
I'm like,
we had a badass like fucking course of instruction from the SF dudes where they were teaching us some dope ass shit.
Oh, I know.
And then literally the next day we get fucking another like surprise range, and our leadership's like, hey, I know y'all were learning this cool stuff, but you're not fucking cool yet. We need to go back to the basics, so everyone just get in a shooting position. And we're just getting digged down.
It was like, it's funny because I know everyone hates TikTok, but I learned a lot of good information from there. And there was this dude.
There's some good shit on TikTok.
There is, and there's this dude who's a he is not a ranger, and he was talking about, he was like, the first time you get to a unit, they're always like, get your ranger handbook. This is the Bible. You need to read this and study this and blah, 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 and this, that, and the
When
third.
really the warrior level 1 task book has
Yeah,
way
and
more
he's
applicable
like,
information.
he was like, huh. He was like, I'm regular infantry. He was like, I will never use small unit tactics. He was like, there's no point for me to treat this book like the Bible. He's like, I have no ambitions to ever going to ranger school. He was like, ranger school doesn't make or break me, whether it determines like whether I'm going to be a good leader, because he was like, even though they slapped the title on there, it's like ranger school is a leadership school. It's not.
It's a dick sucking school.
It's not. It's not a leadership school.
If we were to go to war, like a real war, not the excuse to be in the Middle East war.
Yeah.
Like a war peer to peer, like against Russia or China.
It'd be all
regular
it'd be
infantry
air and navy.
isn't going to be like the make or break. It's going to be who has the most advanced tank, who has the most advanced fighter jet.
Until the advancements are too
I think
much,
Buckley
goes
said it
back
the
to-
best to me on deployment, where he was like, if we got a peer-to-peer combat, if we went to peer-to-peer war again, he was like, it wouldn't be about how much shit we can hump. He was like, it would be who is the lightest, who can move the quickest on the ground. He was like, we would have to start transitioning from the plates we were wearing to like JPCs, even flicks. He was like, because he's like, everyone carries armor-piercing rounds. He was like, so what's the fucking point of me wearing armor if everyone carrying armor-piercing rounds?
Yeah.
He was like, okay, yeah, more of the contusions and concussions. He was like, you can get internal bleeding, so it's like, okay, we can probably take care of that. He's like, I'd rather get hit with a armor-piercing round straight through because I know it's going to go straight through. I'm going to have less
as
internal
opposed to
damage.
getting your plates fucking fractured into your body.
So I'm going to have shrapnel in me, probably concussiveness, internal bleeding, so on and so forth. Like,
Well, so I disagree because our armor, I believe it's 3+, even armor piercing, quote unquote, like with your traditional rifles, won't get through 3+.
yeah.
7.62x5.1 armor piercing with the tungsten rounds will get through our armor.
Yeah.
But like nobody's,
Only special
not even the
operations
U.S. Army. We spend all our money in the entire world on our budget. We can't even afford it because there was talk when we were going to switch our rounds to the armor piercing rounds, the tungsten rounds.
Only SF have it on deployment.
Yep, and they're like, no, we can't really afford that, so we're going to go to what's called the green round, M85 5A1, which is...
That's a steel tip, right?
It's steel tip. It's just like the other one. The only thing is the M855.
What I'm saying is that's the one that has like that little silver piece on the tip, right?
The round before that was M855. M855A1, you can see it exposed steel. It's still, the other one had a steel core.
Yeah, that's what I mean, the exposed steel. And I love it because everyone thinks that's the tungsten round. They see exposed metal and they're like, oh, this is tungsten.
Yeah, no, it's just they got rid of the lead. It was the Army's green round because everything's got to do with like saving the environment. We're in the middle of a war, but we're in the middle of a war and they're like,
gotta save the environment.
We really need to take a look at like the types of metals we're using in our rounds because think about it, like you shoot a certain amount of people, you kill 30,000 people, but like what are we leaving behind?
What are we really leaving
They're
behind?
like, who cares about the people you're killing? You know, it doesn't matter. But like, are they going to be able to
Can we farm afterwards?
breathe well? The people that don't exist, because you know.
Well,
we
based
killed
on my
them all.
knowledge, Indian cultures, once you slaughter a whole clan, they look, that ground is tainted and it's usually haunted, so you don't want to grow anything there.
Native American.
It's just like I don't mind the plates for how much they weigh.
I'd like to.
There are plenty of things we use that do weigh too much that we don't.
Yeah.
use.
So, and I guess I recently learned that the reason why a lot of our shit is so bulky is because it's supposed to be EMP proof. That's the reason.
EMP proof.
Yeah, allegedly.
Non-electronic equipment, so like our rucks are bulky to EMP.
No, I
proof
mean like our like electronic equipment. Like that's why like our radios are fucking massive and shit like that. Like or stuff. But again, that's just like hearsay. I don't think anyone's actually a fucking expert.
I don't even care. I just the
Everything
only
can still be
minor
EMP.
complaints I had were being forced to wear certain like boots and like outfits. It's like if I have the money, can I buy stuff that's in the same camouflage that's better?
No.
Like no.
You got to look the same. Like the enemy doesn't care about
The
that.
enemy doesn't give a shit, and that's but
Like-
at the same time, like the uniform, like if it, I mean, this is a mindset that comes from the olden days, I think, but like, the concept is that if you all look the same and you look intimidating looking this way, it's supposed to have a psychological effect.
Yeah,
on
and all the
enemy.
empires that thought like that have fallen.
And
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, if they had that real mindset that was like, now why not make everyone look SF? Then they think you have a whole entire division of SF soldiers.
Just think about, though, what
Yeah,
really
exactly.
changed the warfare game was guerrilla warfare.
Yes.
It's like, hey, let's get away from this traditional way of thinking and think, okay, what's the smartest way to attack? What's the way we can confuse the enemy?
Yeah.
What's the way we can get away from, like, front lines just, like, shoot at each other? Because, I mean,
I think
about warfare when we all just, like, marched in a platoon and the other platoons marched against us. We got our muzzle loaders and we all just took turns shooting at each other.
Yeah, I think that was the hardest transition for me, like going through the whole crew course and then finally failing, and then failing at the end, and then having to coming back to conventional army after everything I've learned, and to not think, and then being like conditioned to not think conventionally,
having to brain dump it.
Yeah, and like not to think conventionally and doing everything they wanted. I'm like, Dad, why would you do that? And I would tell them, and they're like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And even like I remember we were doing a lane, and the PL was literally like, wow, he was like, you're the last dude alive, like, in the scenario, and he was like, everything you were doing was so unconventional, because I was like, literally pine corners, and then how we were conditioned to, like, oh, let's move a team to this house, move a team to this house,
Yeah.
and I'm one dude, like, oh, look at this, ducks in a row just running across this whole entire compound.
And that's the issue is, and I think so many members in leadership just accept the fact, they're like, well, this is the army, this is how we do it. We'll block out what military branch we're into. Can't be tracing me by my name.
Oh yeah,
I wasn't in the 82nd Airborne, first of the 508.
Oh man,
We'll just bleep all name redacted.
I was recently doing some research.
I'm still in, guys. I can get in trouble.
We said his name was Blake, but it's really Ronald. Yeah. I don't know. I think that with the amount of technology we allow in our lives, we've kind of gotten past the point of just pretending to be someone we're not. I think everyone knows.
I'd like to say that if we went to like a real war, that we would get the real stuff that we need, but at the same time, when we went overseas, we were given weapons that were supposed to be melted down into scrap, and like I saw one of my coworkers M4 fucking blow up on him at a range. I saw someone's saw blow up on them at a range, like, and I kind of so.
It's all a part of the fun.
Yeah,
I remember National Guard still running around with M16s.
Yeah, with no sight.
Yeah.
I remember like picking up this dude's rifle, and just like the upper receiver and the lower receiver were so poorly connected, I could just like shake it around.
Did you have like National Guard come up to you, like not even National Guard, just like anyone that's outside of just infantry was
like combat
what
relief.
is that? Are you special forces?
100%.
Like, no.
So
like this is just an ACOG.
when I first got in, I went straight to the scout platoon, and then like 2 months later, wasn't even 18 yet, and I'm already in sniper section. So it's not like crazy to me because I went straight there.
Yeah.
But for other people who had been in for a while, like I had some officers come up to me. I'm 18 years old, running around with the Army's latest and greatest sniper rifle, and I'm just like, yeah, it's just what I carry, And I've got some officer come up to me, and he's like, I didn't even know we had snipers in our unit. I'm like, what?
Again, back on the disconnect, and like this is something I was trying to say earlier with the disconnect is like, we're at JBAD and we're getting just fucked down with all this shit we have to do, and like we're barely sleeping, we're always on the go, we can't have anything in the tower, we're not allowed to have books. Like you're supposed to spend X amount of hours, like you just need to be looking, which I get, security.
We had some great conversations.
Good conversation, a lot of screaming.
That's honestly the 6 hours forced
that's communication. That's when we became friends.
Was
in the tower.
That's what made me want to do a podcast. Is like when you're forced to talk for 6 hours a day for 3 months straight with one person, it's like
you get to know them.
Yeah,
you have some interesting conversations.
Besides the going insane and losing our brain cells,
the moments where we just screamed and banged on the
walls. I feel like we got
some
good, intelligent discussion going on.
That was me and O'Neill and Sultan, like me and him, because me and him were on towers together for a month and a half. This was probably after I got there, and I learned so much about him. I learned about his son, his little daughter that was being born, just everything under the sun. Like, we got really close.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and then we came back home, and then we both bought the deployment rifles, went to the range a bunch of times. Like, it was, there's certain things about deployment that I will miss, like I won't miss being there, but that experience is still good.
That like sense of family.
I think there's so many things that like overwhelm us in our day-to-day lives. Like, you know, we've got to worry about like gas, taxes, registering our plates,
it's so much simpler.
Insurance,
So
you know, just charging our phone at night. In Afghanistan, it's literally you eat and you drink and you sleep. It's like the necessities of life are the only things you worry about. It's a very simple life.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, sure, you can look at it in the sense that, you know, it's warfare, you're fighting for your life, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, that's your only task, though. There's not like 37 tasks during the day. You got one.
I remember.
And it's almost kind of just very, it's like meditation, sort of.
No, I was talking to this one guy, and I want to say he was like I think he was in like a aircraft mechanic unit or something along those lines. And he was an E5, and it was cool that he was an E5. I was a PFC at the time. He would just come up with bullshit. We would smoke cigarettes and all that stuff together. If I had like a fire going, he'd come and hang out. And he was like, yeah, you know, I've been here for 7 months and stuff, but I'm like, I was coming up on a PCS, and the unit that I PCS to is the unit relieving my unit, and they've already signed the papers to where I can just stay for another 9 months. And I'm like, dude, why the fuck would you want to do that? And he starts talking about how, like, you know, his home life's a little whacked at the moment. You know, he's like going through divorce. He has kids, and he's like, you know, like, yeah, I miss
don't want to go home.
He's like, I miss my kids, but it's so simple here, and I'm making so much money for them, and I'm really not even gonna get to see them anyway. So it's easy living. And I was like, I was already under the impression that it was easy living, but that really cemented it for me and how important it is to other people too.
Yeah,
it was very interesting.
I think it helped too, the amenities, because we've been in the country for 20 years. You know, we've really built some good infrastructure there.
I could
so
go
we
get
were
some fucking Starbucks in Afghanistan.
We've
wild.
got a nice bed, AC controlled rooms and stuff.
Yeah,
like
Pizza
so
Hut.
it's not like a traditional war. Whereas if we were like, you know, in the Philippines in World War II, or like
we weren't even the initial insurgent.
The beaches in Normandy, like that's some different shit. Like, you're going there, you don't know if you really don't know who's making it back, and you don't think many people are going to make it back.
Yeah.
And you're all wearing the same pair of socks for months on end. You're dealing with frostbite.
No, you go there and you
to
bitch
death.
about how expensive the Wi-Fi is and whose turn it is on Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Next.
Oh my god. He's like, you know how long it took me to download this game?
It took
2
3
fucking
years
days.
to download
It took us, what, 11 days to download Modern Warfare? And it was a big... So we
I only
so
got to
pissed.
shoot fake people on a video game
Bro,
for 3
do not
days.
get me started with
before
that
I got
internet.
again.
Someone running around, who the fuck logged in on my Wi-Fi? I've had this download going for so long.
Don't get me started on that Wi-Fi. I'm like, they know contractors are out there, soldiers making extra money. I was like, you are robbing us at gunpoint.
No, for
$250 for internet.
That's how much it was for you?
No, dude, I was like, I think it was like iPhones like max, and I got the other one, which was like I was paying no more than 90.
We were cheap. We went with the minimum, the 90.
So I was,
$90.
and it's 90 is not even the minimum. That's just like
That
the
was like
minimum of the decent tier. It was
And I was like-
the median.
And I was like, okay, this is good enough because I'm like, I can stream and not have a problem, and if I wanted to play on my Switch, I could play
5
on my Switch.
kilobytes a second.
But
Yeah.
it wasn't until Charles Sabah told me he was like, yeah, why don't you using your phone as a hotspot? I'm like, what?
You could do that?
He was like, yeah, why don't you using your phone as a hotspot? He said you can stream the internet for that, and I was like, so you told me I can watch the internet on my phone and use my Switch? He was like, yes, and I was like,
Blowing
say
your
less.
mind.
I was like, say less.
I think the only time I bought the most expensive internet package, which was like $150 a month,
I got Sam here.
was when I bought my first gaming laptop over there, which was cool that I could go to a store and buy a fucking laptop in, you know, a quote unquote war zone. And then I bought that so I could just download all these fucking games like as fast as possible. Even though it was as fast as possible, it took me 2 days for an 8 gig game. Like, fuck.
That shit took
Good
forever.
times.
But like,
What
I mean,
is
that was when we were on like an easy mission set.
We had a decent amount of downtime for a few months where
For a
we
few
would
months.
have like 10, 11 hours of free time every day. And
Yeah, because our whole job was just to be on standby.
Yeah,
Kyle was in your platoon, too,
QRF.
right?
No, he was in a same company, different platoon.
Because he was telling me how shitty you guys. He was like, his PL was literally making him do everything under
Oh
the
my
sun.
God,
Like
man.
they had actual like plan of action for every single day.
Well, that's how it was when we were fucking at
This was
JBAT.
like a once in a deployment thing where we actually had some downtime. It was like 2 months.
Okay.
Other than the rest of it was like that. But these 2 months where we would just sit there, we slept whenever we want. We literally made our own schedules. We didn't do anything. No missions, nothing.
Whoa, we all got
so we all worked out religiously, and
it was like 2-3 hours a day.
Other than that, we had this like fetish with learning new things. So we all just went on to like YouTube and started like researching the wackiest conspiracy theories, like ancient civilizations, and like decided to get our doctorates in like ancient history and religion and stuff. And we would just sit there and talk about like
we had like
stuff you would have never even contemplated before this.
I remember we were there last October, and for the month of October we had enough downtime to where we could like plan around and make a fucking like month-long Halloween fest, and we just watched a horror movie every single night.
I was convinced, you dive down some deep rabbit holes on the internet, I was convinced that there's 3 families that control the entire world, that they all basically were Satan's kids.
The fucking, like the Rockefellers, the Kochs,
the Rothschilds, basically all these fucking families that like grew up in like banking systems hundreds of years ago, just continually grown. And I'm just like I'm connecting all the dots. I'm like, I'm figuring it out. I'm gonna be the one who figures it out. And I felt like I did. I'm like, I figured it out. I know who's in charge, who's running the pictures behind the scenes. Every time anybody says the word conspiracy theory, I'm like, no. Fact.
Before we go on to the next topic, something I've been wanting to say for a minute was like, and again, back on the disconnect, because that was my biggest issue. And this is the thing that pissed me off the most, was fucking when we were getting fucked up on J-Bad, like just never sleeping, always working. I remember talking to my LT, and he's like, man, I'm so ready to go on to this next place. I'm so bored. I'm running out of movies to watch. And I was just like, there I am. I hadn't slept in 36 hours between his fucking ranges and the tower and fucking like classes, and I'm just like, oh sir. And he was so cherry, dude. This guy was
I got one for you.
I see that finger. Let me finish this real fast. This guy was so fucking cherry. He's like, I haven't cut my hair since ranger school.
Keep talking. I'm gonna relieve myself.
I'm like, yeah, sir, I can tell.
Oh man, so this is when I was at Sultan, and this is night and day. Like the PL I had in second platoon, he's solid. I can't remember his name because I just don't care about officers that much.
Fuck him.
But this PL, he was brand new PL in 1P, and we were out Sultan with them. I saw this motherfucker like walking around at night, well during the day, like during my shift change, and I'm like, where's this dude going? And I'm like, he walks up the tower, I'm like, oh, he's just checking on his dudes. And come to line out, because later on that night, I'm sitting around the fire, I'm like, hey sir, I'm like, what do you be doing during the day? Like, we see you go up to the tower all the time. He was like, oh, I pull guard. And we all stopped and looked at him like, you do what? He was like, yeah, I pull guard. He's like, if my Joes can pull guard, he's like, I can pull guard. He's like, and honestly, he's like, I'm not doing shit out here. He's like, so I can at least take, he was like, this takes a shift away from someone to be able to give him some more downtime. I was like,
that's fucking...
No one in Fury would ever fucking say that.
That is insane.
Yes.
That's awesome, actually.
Yes, he was fucking going to ranges. Like, he would do all normal PL stuff, but, like, he was literally getting out there doing the grunt shit. So, like, when we're moving, like, waters, filling sandbags, like, this 1P platoon, so, like, this 1P, like, lieutenant was out there doing it. And he would even come out and help us. He was like, oh, yeah, like, when we had to go do ranges, he came to my tower numerous times and relieved me. He was like, yeah, I'm here to take over for you guys. I'm like, what? He was like, yeah, I'm here to take over for you guys. I'm like, you're by yourself, sir. Like, he was like, yeah, that's cool. I'm like, I'm here. He was like, go do what you got to do.
That's
I'm like,
so fucking cool.
And I was like,
I could see our leadership getting pissed off about that.
And I was like, yo, you guys just PL's dope. He was like, yeah. He was like, he's probably one of the better petite PLs we've had.
Yeah, that is nuts. Fucking meanwhile, we're on tower guard and all of our SOGs are like going to the gym, fucking off, leaving their radio around, not listening to us. Like, we're in situations where it's like we have to contact the SOG, and they're just, getting their fucking bench press in. Yeah, for real.
I preferred it. Then I could, relax a little bit.
I will say that we had this one squad leader, and one of his guys was like having a baby, and he wanted to be able to FaceTime his wife like during the pregnancy or during the birth, so that way he could like be there as much as he could. And his squad leader took his fucking shift, and like he was the one relieving me, and sure enough, dude came up full kit, had his helmet in hand, like ready to go.
Don't get me started.
That was something I respected a lot.
Remember Heights and him having a baby? I don't know if you know Heights was having a baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was supposed to come late for his baby, to deployment for his baby. I'll keep it short. Like, he's supposed to come late, but they made him go on deployment. Little to get out there, and they were like, yeah, your squad leader never told us you were having a baby. I'm like, bro, I was hyped as team leader. We were in the office literally saying, they were like, yo, why are you getting married? He was like, did you just meet this girl? He was like, no, I've been with her for 3 years. He was like, we're getting married because we're having a kid. And we said this in the office the very first day he was like coming to the platoon, and literally they made him miss the birth of his child. Didn't even get, I think he barely got to see his wife on FaceTime for the birth of his child. And they were like, yeah, you never told us about your child. Like,
Yeah, I missed mine too.
yeah, see him like, the fuck?
They let me go home early, and then because my son was born 2 months early.
Yeah.
And so this was like December, so we were there for 6-7 months, and they're like, they barely let me leave early though, and that's when I was like 10 minutes from getting on the plane, and the Taliban sent a car bomb in Bagram to that hospital.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I was in the building next to it, so the ceiling light came down on top of me right before I got on the plane.
Nice.
I had no idea what was going on. I'm just like half asleep, and I wake up to this like shockwave, and the ceiling's collapsing on top of me. I think a rocket hit the ceiling, and I'm like, oh, that was a good shot. I was convinced I was about to die. Ceiling comes down on top of me. I'm fucking confused as shit why the building's falling down. I just felt this shockwave. I hear the alarm going off, like, ground attack. And it's the one time in 7 months I don't have my rifle on me.
Right? You're trying to leave.
No! I was finally going to get to shoot at someone! Which, I mean, I should have been like, oh no, I'm going to miss going home. But, you know, they put you in that mindset, and you just, like, keep building this idea, like, man, like, I'm a warrior. I can't wait to fight. And it really, it worked.
Real.
It worked.
The indoctrination is real.
Because I'm getting blown up, not getting to go home, and my first thought is like, I don't have my weapon. I can't shoot these fools. But
damn, it's crazy indoctrination. Like, I never wanted to like actively seek out a firefight. Like, if it happened, it happened. But I didn't want to seek shit out because like I'm more concerned with people coming home, everybody coming home, shit not escalating, so on and so forth. And I remember like some of the people that I worked with like getting mad at me and telling me that I'm a piece of shit because I didn't want to go out and fight. And it's like,
I told you that once.
Did you? Was it?
Yeah. Well, it's just because I hyped myself up over there. Plus, like, it wasn't. I kind of sort of felt more towards leaning, or I lean more towards your thought process. But like being in a position of leadership, like I knew that with that thought process, say we ever did get in the shit, like I wanted you to be like ready to just like.
And it's not that I wasn't like it. Like I said, if it happens, it happens, and I'm fucking there. Like it is my job. But there's a difference between like being able to do your job, and we have a job where like I honestly don't think that you should want to just seek out a fight for the sake of a fight. There should have been a purpose behind it. It like whether it's fucking protecting my buddies and the people next to me because like shit's popping off, and that was like I think all of our reasonings more than anything, or should have been like, you know, these are my fucking boys. Things are happening. Like it's like this is where you need to step up. But just like wanting to go out for no reason other than to do shit, it's like you don't realize that you're gonna be getting fucking shot at.
I was totally messed up over there.
Yeah.
My thought process was not what, you know, a moral person's thought process was. I wasn't over there for anything other than the fact that one, I was forced to be over there, but like because of that, like I felt like more like caveman instincts came in. Like I'm having dreams of just like schwacking people left and right, and I'm like, I can't wait. And I think that's such a bad place for someone to be in, where they can't wait to end someone else's life.
The deployment for me was a long training cycle mixed with being honey dick the whole entire
Pretty
time.
fucking much.
And I was like, being that we were QRF for the whole AO and being attached to SF and being called out for QRF and sitting on airways and just sleeping on those pads every single night, and just like, I'm just waiting to go out here. And then at the same time, my brain's like
sleeping in a helicopter with the rotors going for 3 hours. I'm like, you're going on mission.
I'm like, I don't want to get shot at. Yeah, you never. And like that was the whole like I'm just being honey dick the whole.
Well, then like the one time we did go on a mission, our fucking platoon sergeant's hyping us up like, make sure you have your full combat load because you're not coming back with all of it. And we're like, oh fucking hell yeah! And then we go out there and I didn't do shit.
Yeah.
I was the point man for that mission. I take everyone to this place where the person in the back, apparently I was moving too fast, so people were getting hurt.
Man, I was up front with you. We were moving we were zooming. I definitely face planted.
I think I was just really excited.
Shit was like it was so dark.
Let's go, guys.
There's no moon. I have my nods turned up all the way, and I still can't see shit. The terrain's rough, and like we're carrying us like backpacks with fucking 3 mortar rounds in them, plus all of our bullshit fucking packing lists they thought we would need. And I remember just like stepping in a hole and fucking right on my face.
See, they tell us like week prior, like we lost 2 guys in the brigade, like down at Kandahar, you know, or we lost this guy and this guy.
Yeah,
and now and we can't go out on mission, and so now it's like personal. It's like, okay, so we're here, we're not even going on a mission, and we've got guys dying because they've got like infiltrators into the ANA, which we directly work with, killing our guys. It's like, okay, this is personal now. So when we finally got on mission, it's just like I've been sitting here day in and day out, like, and these guys are just killing us, and we just had to like accept it. It's like this is our one chance to like tell them, hey, this is not okay. We can also do that to you.
Yeah.
So I was just pretty excited, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
that was
I
think that was a big frustration for me, like realizing all the deaths were just like green on blue. It was green on blue. It was like he was like, okay, they're infiltrators and they're part of the Taliban. So the Taliban, yes, is killing us. I'm like,
it was insider threat the whole time.
Yes,
it was so shitty. So shitty. Like those 2 guys in the tower, like. And it's,
that's shitty though. That is really shitty.
You shouldn't even be like, in my opinion, you shouldn't even be doing that. You shouldn't be fucking pulling double guard with ANA, like that, because obviously what the shit that fucking happens.
Yeah.
Like,
and they corrected that. They corrected that really quick. Like, we shouldn't have been in the tower. It should have just been us. And if they like wanted to guard tower, like that's the tower they're gonna guard, like by themselves. And it should.
Yeah.
Anywho, what do you guys miss about deployment?
Honestly, like, really, like we were saying, the simplicity
just
of
the
it.
simplicity.
Like, I knew I was gonna have some chicken tenders for lunch every single
Wednesday
day,
night,
and wings every Wednesday, and I knew.
Oh yeah, because lunch for us was at midnight.
Every single night, I was gonna take an unhealthy amount of supplements and go work out until I see stars.
I was taking SARMs, and then I fucking get my just high intensity pre-workout, just almost fucking straight. It'd be like a sip of water with like 2 scoops. And then going in
I was going into this deployment, I think we were all going to this deployment, slightly below average physiques. And we were going to come out like...
Holy shit,
Bro, I was strong.
Mr. Olympia.
I was strong at the end of the deployment.
I went into deployment, kind of weighing, I was kind of a chunky 180. And then by the time we were on ARF and we could fucking do nothing but work out, like I got to a salty 205. I was pushing. That was the most weight I've ever lifted in my life. And then immediately we go to some bullshit fucking fob, and you weren't there for us for that. It was Farah. Went to Farah.
Yeah.
We're like, sure, there was a gym, but like our schedule was fucking whack. The gym was whatever.
There was a lot of towers. There's 6 towers.
Yeah.
6 towers. Were they double?
Well, there was 5. There was 5.
Oh yeah.
And we were doing sync because they dropped that one tower.
Yeah, the one that was probably looking over their compound, ANA compound.
Yeah, so they dropped once. There were 5 towers, and then, but like you're getting fed twice a day. Maybe if you want to go, if you are awake for.
Y'all had showers, huh?
Meals. Yeah. No hot water. I'll be honest. This is the dirtiest.
Since we were over there taking showers with hoses out there.
So they built it up because you were there in the beginning, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, they built it up a little bit, and eventually it got to like those private showers.
I was there for the back end when they were starting to build it up.
Yeah.
Again.
So I got
to see that.
I was a bit of a dirty bird, and the fucking like 2 months we were there, I think I showered 3 times.
Sounds about right.
I
Those showers were amazing.
I didn't even smell that bad.
The smoke shack on Bagram on the little flight
line.
Oh,
on the flight line.
You ever step out over there?
With the RFIS?
Yeah.
They
have like a little
nice big.
There's like
there was
a
a
Bluetooth speaker, some swing chairs. I don't smoke now. I never smoked before, but on deployment, I was smoking like a cigar or 2 every single night.
I had a cigar.
It was like an interesting change, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Luckily, I didn't pick up like a tobacco addiction over there, which I don't know how I did.
I'm 100% a field smoker. I'm 100% field smoker.
Yeah.
Because of Afghanistan, I'm smoking as much now as I do. Still, even after.
I don't even. It's not even a thought in my brain. I think the thing I miss the most, kebabs.
Oh.
Never had one. The one day I was at Farah and I was gonna be like, hey man, come get me a kebab. Is the day they were like, we think the Taliban's poisoning the kebabs because they know they're eating them, and I was like, fuck, I was gonna get one, but like, it was cool because you'd be on.
Can I still have it? Like, if I take that risk?
If I take that, that's on me, right?
You gonna get food poisoning.
But doing like the fucking escort detail though, and then like sitting down and having lunch with them, you're cracking open an MRE, and they're coming with this fucking pot of like curry chicken.
Oh man!
And they were so cool because like they'd fucking put a little bit in a bowl, give me a slice of their naan bread, and bring it over to me. I was like, God bless. Like those.
I thought it was interesting.
Those civilian workers were so cool. And then one time they brought us over fucking a glass of their tea that they made, and it was green
tea's
tea.
Really good.
Holy shit! It's the best fucking green tea I've ever had.
Shit was good.
Probably had a bunch of like opium in it. Or whatever.
One of the funnier things on deployment for me, I think it's just there's so many people over there doing different things, and to give some context for the people, for you and for anyone who wasn't there, everyone listening, there's this guy, Bo. He was the 18 Bravo senior.
We'll blink his name out.
Bo isn't his name, so it's fine.
His name was Hot Rod. We'll say that.
His name was Slick Rick. So Slick Rick was the guy who was teaching most of the shooting courses for us, like at the beginning of deployment. Well, we're in a different place in Afghanistan. We're now in Bagram for a little bit, and I was just like on the airline, we're chilling. I get my flip-flops on and my towel, and I'm just gonna go walk to the porta shower, and not expecting to see anything other than people working out or something, and I just see Slick Rick with 3 insurgents with sacks over their heads, zip tied, and he's just sitting there, and I'm like, hey, I know you. He's like, hey, how's it going? Just babysitting these retards. I'm like, who are they? Well, apparently someone important. I'm like, huh, it's a cool thing to see on the way to the shower.
Mm-hmm.
Glad someone's getting some bad guys.
Right. The coolest thing, I think, I'm gonna keep it short because I gotta bounce, was when we were at Farah, we were doing mission with SF, and I was on like guard duty for like POWs and stuff. So they were raiding the compound, and they got back some ANA, and they actually snatched up one of the Taliban members in there. So yeah, I got to help corral them. So they did their checks, did like the biometrics and all that stuff. And then once they got done with that, they got handed off to Flood. Flood would escort over to me, and then I would put them in the room, and I would basically guard the room. And they had a bunch of MREs. They destroyed that room in less than like 6 hours. It was wild. Flood actually got to go on the mission, but he stayed on the Chinook, and he was over there manhandling Taliban dude like, ma, you know how he gets it. But that was probably the coolest thing I probably did. And then they had a Guardian Angel mission where they did a false insurgent on us, and I was like, you were trying to get me killed. Like, you did a false insurgent into their compound, and you let us walk in here. So that was fun. But
I say we probably wrap up the podcast portion of the conversation.
Yeah.
Continue after.
We had a lot of content.
We can. We'll probably tomorrow. I don't know if you're down or if you're down.
Yeah, if I'm available.
Or whoever else of our friend group is down. But we actually try and talk about somewhat of a specific content, video games.
Yeah. Try to keep it a little less military too. This one got super military heavy.
Yeah,
it's hard
really
not to at times.
We'll
Apex or die.
Yeah, we're gonna get into some video game culture tomorrow for episode 2.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna
who knows
review
what order,
this,
who
make
knows
sure
what
we're
order
not
we'll release them
incriminating
in,
ourselves.
so.
Incriminating yourself or saying something that's classified that we maybe shouldn't have. So if you hear like a cutout in the middle of this episode, it's because we said some shit we weren't supposed to because we're really unprofessional.
Yeah, keep in mind I'm still in, guys.
That is true.
We'll do a nice clean of the podcast before we post it. But yeah, tomorrow we'll get into video games, some fun stuff.
True.
Sounds good.
All right.
Wrap it up.
Here we go.